call for this. I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't think we just, it's only discussion. You do need a motion and a second to adjourn. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Chelsea, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's 5 o'clock and we're going to bring our work session for May 11th to order. We have 2 items on the agenda. The first one is sidewalk repair program discussion, and Chelsea's going to lead that discussion.
Okay, we are going to get started. Nick Furness just helped save 13 ducklings out of a storm sewer, so he's on his way back and he'll be here in a minute. So we might have to pause for him to help answer any specific questions on the repairs and the inventory list. I want to go over the city's sidewalk repair program. We have presented this twice at previous work sessions with the city council. I want to talk about a few changes to the program, and the intention tonight is to update the 2 new elected officials that are sitting here tonight that were not on the council when the council approved this back in December. Okay, so tonight we're going to go over the sidewalk repair program. We'll talk a little bit about the city's financial assistance policy. We will talk about the inventory that was taken back in August of 2025 and talk about a recommended approach to sending out notices to people that do need to repair their sidewalks. Okay, so this is something that has been discussed over the last 2-year period. Back in 2014, there was case law that established that cities had the ability to shift liability to the abutting property owner. That was known as Madden versus the City of Iowa City. Fast forward to 2023, and there was a new case and a new case law established in Bankers Trust versus the City of Des Moines, and that was a ruling at the Supreme Court. They released a decision which shifted the liability for injuries resulting from poor maintenance of public sidewalks back to the city governments. So city governments had been operating a certain way for a decade. Case law changed how or who was responsible and who was liable for any incidents that resulted on public sidewalks. Back in 2024, so 2 years ago in the summer of 2024, the city council adopted a new sidewalk liability ordinance to reflect that new case law. Does anybody have any questions about that? I feel like we've talked about this quite a bit over the past couple of years.
Wasn't there legislation, are you going to talk about that?
Bankers Trust versus the City of Des Moines was a ruling back in 2023 that shifted the liability back to the local governments.
But I thought there was legislation this session.
I will talk about that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So we have a lot of public sidewalks in the city of Polk City. The city is responsible for liability. So if somebody does get hurt or injured on the public sidewalk, the person that is injured can go after the city government instead of the abutting property owner. The city can, however, be proactive in requiring abutting property owners to fix repair liability issues, and that is identified in Iowa Code, Chapter 364.12. So we had this legislation change, and the city council gave the city staff a directive. Well, what are we going to do? How are we going to be proactive about going out and letting property owners know that they need to repair their sidewalks? So we had created kind of a working committee on the staff. It involved a number of people, myself, the city clerk, our building official, public works director, and then our construction observer was a part of those committee meetings that we held. And we proposed a sidewalk repair program with the ultimate goal of creating a safe, walkable community through regular inspections and structured repair efforts for the city as a whole. So after we created, or right before we created this program, the city council asked us to go out and take an inventory of all of the sidewalks throughout Polk City. This inventory was taken in August of 2025. It does need to be updated, but I am going to go over a list of how many repairs there are as of last August 2025. And this is where I need Nick is on some of these codes that are listed in this slide. So a grand total of 304 locations throughout the city of Polk City that are in need of repairs. So we have those broken down into codes A through F. And if you refer back to the policy, if you have that available, which is included in the work session packet tonight, you should be able to see exactly what those codes refer back to. Skip over this, and then when Nick gets here, if you have specific questions on this, we can go over this slide when he gets here. In addition to the 304 repairs, there are 29 curb stops that need to be replaced because they're a trip hazard or there's damage to the abutting sidewalk panel. We went ahead and sent letters to all of these property owners back in the fall of 2025. We have not done an inspection to make sure that people have followed up on this, but this is going to be one of the first things we do regarding the sidewalk repair program. Okay, so let's go over the program that was approved by the city council next. Our goal when we were meeting and going over the various different sidewalk issues throughout town, implemented a repair program where we focus on repairs that need to be made to reduce the liability to the city. So anytime there was a tripping hazard or any sort of issue where we thought that the liability would be back on the city, we identified it in the inventory list. We have spent a number of work sessions talking about this, but I think our ultimate goal is to how best educate the public on why we are doing this citywide. It's also provided us with an opportunity to review deferred sidewalks and gaps in existing developments and developed areas, which we have previously talked about as well. Our goal with the sidewalk repair program is to also try to come up with easy solutions for residents and provide them with adequate amount of time to repair the sidewalks. One thing that kept coming up is how difficult and time consuming it is for you to contact a contractor to come give you an estimate. And then if they're giving you an estimate to break out and replace a single panel of sidewalk, that's going to be a very costly repair. So one of the ideas we did have when we were writing the sidewalk repair program was we could do a citywide contract and people could opt into the citywide contract to take advantage of economies of scale. So provide our residents with, not only a notice that, hey, you do need to get your sidewalk repaired, but here's the information of a competitive contract the city has sought out, and to make it a little bit easy for you for coordination purposes and provide you with the best pricing possible. I also think with a project like this, I think it's really important for the city to manage our expectations and just know that we're not going to get all of the sidewalks repaired immediately, but our goal is to make progress each year that we get into the sidewalk repair program. So when the council approved the sidewalk repair program late last year, we had talked about sending notices to all 300 plus residents in town that needed to repair their sidewalks. I think we're going to backtrack a little bit on our recommendation for a number of reasons tonight, but what we'd like to actually do is divide the town into 5 districts and focus on the areas of town that have the most repairs that need to be made and the most severe repairs that need to be made. I'm going to pull up a map here in a second, but we've identified the most critical district in town as the Pine Ridge, Deer Haven, and Marina Cove neighborhoods. Not only is this a substantial neighborhood, but there are some deteriorating and older sidewalks in this neighborhood. So of the 304 locations that were identified citywide, in this neighborhood specifically, there's 30 locations for a total of 47 panels that need to be replaced. There's 62 locations that could be grinded down instead of fully replaced. They could just be grind down. Of those 62 locations, there's 74 panels total. And then there's 12 curb stops that need to be repaired. Like I mentioned, we've already sent all of the homeowners in town letters that need to repair their curb stops. That's probably the most severe liability issue that we have. So we'd focus on trying to get all curb stops fixed within the first year.
Chelsea, have you gotten any feedback from that initial curb stop repair, like residents calling saying like, what is this? I mean, I imagine there had to be.
We had some feedback. I do know we had some people repair their curb stops immediately, and I do know that there are some that have not repaired theirs.
Yeah, I was just curious kind of what
Yeah.
the sentiment was. Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions on kind of the approach that we've taken to divide the community into 5 districts? I want to say that we're talking about doing this for a number of reasons, but I think we'd like to try this out the first year. Instead of sending letters citywide, we'd like to try a smaller sample size to see how it goes. We always learn things when we go through processes and procedures like this, and we get better each time we do it. But also just another reminder, we're down a few people in the Public Works Department, and we really need the Public Works Department's assistance if we're going to do a citywide sidewalk project. So that is one of the reasons why we think we should just try a smaller neighborhood instead of sending out all of those notices immediately. I know the council had some good feedback when we proposed sending notices out to everybody right away, but how do you all feel about us doing a more phased approach to this?
I personally like it. I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
And it's our neighborhood first, so we get to take a lot of the, I think what would be most important is make sure we have the same talking points, that we're on the same page. So there's consistency amongst us as people do come to us for this, because it's an expense and unknown expense, and people will wonder why. And so that's the key for me, is just being educated so I can talk with folks the same as across the board.
I know you already said it, but can you repeat why District 1 first compared to the other districts? The Pine Ridge, Deer Haven, Marina Cove.
We have the most severe repairs in that neighborhood that need to be addressed.
Can you think of what goes to that being the case, since of the 3 districts I'm looking at on this one, 1, 2, and 3, it is the newest neighborhoods, newest sidewalks?
They don't make stuff like these do?
Let's put Nick on the spot. Nick, why do you think the Pine Ridge, Deer Haven, Marina Cove is our priority area? And do you have any idea of why we might have the most severe tripping hazards in that neighborhood?
I think all of the locations that we're gonna find, or all of the sections of town are gonna be the same. I don't think like one is gonna be different than 2 as far as tripping. I feel like they're all gonna be like that. As far as like choosing what sections where, we just try to get as many sections as good, and then we just threw numbers on them, and that's where we started. We weren't trying to pick on one area or the other.
Okay.
And then that one has a lot of sidewalks, but it also doesn't, because it has roads on there that doesn't have any. So we try to balance as many sidewalks as we could in each section, so. But I don't think section 1 has any more trip hazards than section 2
Okay.
and 3 will have. I do believe that 2 and 3 are probably gonna have more severe sidewalks, as far as there'll be less tripping hazards, but there'll be more breakage.
Yeah.
So you know, one does have a lot of A's, but I feel like one will have a lot where residents or contractors will be able to grind it out pretty quickly compared to what you'll find in 2, 3, and 4.
And one possible theory could be that that's closer to the backwaters, so the geology may lead to just settlement in general. That could be something that maybe a newer neighborhood is performing more poorly. That is a very real possibility, because I remember the 12 Oaks Plat 3, which is the furthest southeast portion of that district, was pretty sandy when we did that in 2018.
So can we go back to the sidewalk repair volume slide? I thought we had talked last time and we're just gonna start, what's the most severe? Is it A or F?
Well, we have severity wise, I'd have to look at the codes again, but I think it's like D and E, C, D, and E, or more of like, we have to replace panels, where A is just a tripping hazard, where most of the time we can grind them down.
Kind of misleading too. It's basically a pass fail, like they're all unsafe. So I don't know that there is a.
You essentially have like a 1/4 inch, and anything above a 1/4 inch is a fail, so.
Okay.
1/4 inch is not a lot when you go out there, so.
Okay, I am more confused, but it doesn't matter, I guess, if this is liability based. I thought when we talked last time, the priority was to address the most severe regardless of where they were. That I'm concerned that if we do districts, and I understand why we need to break them up, but if the most severe, whatever code it is, in the wrong district gets deprioritized just because it's the wrong district, that's not gonna help us out from a liability standpoint, so.
I think some of the liability gets shifted if there's a program in place, though. I might be wrong, but I thought that was kind of one of the things, is if we get the program in place, it shows
Okay.
that we're being proactive.
Would make sense.
Makes
So
sense.
necessarily section 5 might be 5 years away, but since we've started section 1,
So we don't need to do the work, we just need to have a program.
essentially, well, I mean.
No,
we have to
we have to implement it.
I mean,
I mean,
it can't just be, yeah, we're
Well,
addressing it.
yeah, I don't mean never do it. I mean, not, like, again, if the rotation comes for District 4 and it's the most severe, if we have a plan and we get there in 2029, then we're fine, as long as we do it in
As long as
2029.
there's a plan in place.
Okay, okay.
Can we go back to Rob's question in the beginning? So there was a recent change, right, this session?
Yeah, so let's kind of go through the history a little bit better.
Before you answer that, Cass, just one.
Yep.
Because we're talking about the tripping hazard. What about the the valves? Is that, I mean, I hit mine down only because Mike Schulte told me I could,
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't have.
So curb stops are, yes, they're the same thing,
That's-
except for curb stops a little bit different than the sidewalk, because we can just go, we're going after them just as well. I think there's 29 total in the town, and I believe there was 12 of them in just in.
You're talking the water,
Just the curb stops.
okay. So that's what you call a curb stop.
Identified where we have valves and manholes where we're gonna replace, just as the city, because it is our structure doing the damage to the panels.
So we're speaking apples to apples, the water shut off is the curb stop.
Correct.
Okay.
I had a 50-50 chance on that.
No, I just want to make sure.
That wasn't what I was thinking either, so.
I was thinking it was the actual curb, but either way, if it's dangerous, it's dangerous. But I do walk my dog a lot. There's a lot of them out around, and I would love to,
So the curb.
I kind of want to just hit them all down.
So since we've already had the inventory, we've already sent out letters for the 29 curb stops throughout town that they're above where they need to be, so they're tripping hazards.
Okay.
So we've gone out and addressed those. Whether or not they've been fixed yet is the question. We have to go back out and look for them.
Sure, okay.
But those are being addressed outside of this, because those are sometimes a more simple fix. It's just maybe just capping it down. Some of them, though, will have to be dug up.
Yeah.
It just depends.
And they need caps. There's a lot of caps that need to be replaced too. Okay. All right. Thank you. No, that does help a lot that we are on the same terminology. So thanks for calling that out.
Sorry, now that I'm getting in front of Jeff's question, so curb stop that's not in a sidewalk or a driveway.
Correct.
So, but it's in the right of way. Not that my house may be the example that I'm thinking of here selfishly, but
Where's yours?
it's in the right of way, but it's in the grass. So, but it's above the, I mean, it's a little bit above
Great.
yeah.
Yep.
So is that, where does that fit?
I don't,
That's a great question.
I don't think that matters. I mean, it's not the public using that space, right? So it's not like it could be a tripping hazard.
Does it matter whether it's in the right of way, if it would be, like, does it matter which side of the sidewalk it's on?
Well, if it's on the homeowner side or the house side of the sidewalk, that should be on their property.
Okay,
Now, if it's in the right of way, it's a little bit different because that's technically our easement. But again, like, they shouldn't be using that area to walk, so I don't know. I don't know. That's.
Sounds like you take a hammer and go beat it.
I'm not Dave.
A sledge.
A sledge.
Yeah.
No,
Be careful when you do it.
just a maul.
Not doing anything.
I did
Don't
mine,
do it.
I did mine with a maul. You don't need a sledgehammer.
I'll wait for something to go wrong and say Schulte told me to.
From an accessibility standpoint, anything outside of the pavement, the only thing that matters is if it goes above 18 inches, and then there's horizontal clearances that have to happen. If it's in the grass and it's not more than 18 inches tall, you shouldn't have to worry about it from a accessibility standpoint. Because what they're thinking about is bicycles.
Okay.
Pedal's gonna hit it if it's 18 inches tall.
Okie dokie.
Okay, let's talk timeline really quick before Jeff forgets about his question. So 2024 is when the Bankers Trust versus the City of Des Moines case law shifted liability. Liability used to be on abutting property owners, was shifted to the local municipalities. 2025 and 2026 Iowa legislative session, there have been proposed bills to change the liability back to the abutting property owners, and both have died. So neither session had successful legislation that changed the liability back to the abutting property owner. And we'll talk a little bit about the program and the timeline tonight, but one of the requirements of our program is that we notify people before April 1st. Well, we had been waiting and kind of stalling to see if something was going to change at the State House and the liability shift. And so that's why we are, a little bit late on discussing this matter again. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Already talked about that. Let's talk about. Okay, so I'm gonna go over what the policy says. Each year, city staff will go out and do annual inspections, and it is pass or fail, but there are obviously more severe issues than others. The curb stop matter is probably the most severe. Annual inspections are supposed to be completed by April 1st each year. When we compile our inventory, we send out notices, and based off of the conditions, we're to give abutting property owners between 120 days to 365 days to repair the sidewalk. I still think that's a pretty adequate repair window, just because it takes, if somebody wants to do it on their own, it does take some time. If they need to rent equipment to do grinding, if they don't want to partner or go with the city contract, it allows them an opportunity to find a contractor and get that set up. The policy also does say that the city will obtain bids, and we have an RFP on tonight's consent agenda, on the council meeting agenda, to send out bids to request pricing for replacement of panels. So we're not going to do a grinder contract, we're just gonna do the removal of panels and the pouring back of a new panel. We can still give people between 120 days and 365 days. I think we adhere to the timeline there. But we're a little bit behind time. I think ideally we'd want people to try to get things repaired before winter hits this upcoming winter. If people, or if abutting property owners are interested in the citywide contract, we will waive the sidewalk permit fee. If they do want to go get their own contract, they'll be required to submit a sidewalk permit and pay the $75 fee for the inspection component of the process. We do have the opportunity that if people don't take care of the abutting sidewalk within the time allocated to them, that the city can go in and do it and we can do a special assessment. That is going to be a little bit lengthy of a process, but it is something that we are able to do and it's referenced in the policy. So with the process, and with the program, it's identified that all abutting property owners, the repairs need to meet SUDAS and PRO-WAG standards, and that the abutting property owners are responsible for sidewalk and gap connections. I already went over this, but the permit for sidewalk is $75 in Polk City. We can do that permit through the Community Development Building Department. Again, if you're willing to tap into the citywide contract we're hoping to get bids for by next month, we will waive the $75 permit fee. So permit requirements, everybody will be required to fill out a permit. The application, including the location, details, and drawing, can be completed through the Community Development Department. We do that online through CitizenServe. People cannot repair their sidewalk until a permit has been reviewed and approved. Contact City Hall for questions. Earlier in 2026, the City Council approved a sidewalk financial assistance program. So for individuals that qualify, it's based off of income per household. They can receive city funding using the city's LMI dollars. That program is administered through City Hall, and the city is providing up to $500 per sidewalk repair. We have created an application for the sidewalk repair program. It is available online, and we are ready to begin reviewing once those letters are sent out to those people that need repairs. So these are the next steps for the City Council, and looking for just a little bit of discussion on this. The City Council's already implemented the sidewalk repair program that's available in Dropbox for tonight for you to review. Tonight, you're also considering an RFP for a citywide sidewalk contract. We anticipate reaching out to contractors, and both Nick and Cody have suggested that we reach out to contractors that are already in Polk City for favorable pricing. So we'll reach out to the contractors, Absolute, Caliber. We can probably secure a proposal from Brothers, and then also some people that are doing smaller foundation work through the building department. We'd intend to reach out to a number of contractors to see if we could get bids for the program. The council would consider awarding that contract at the June 8th City Council meeting. Again, I think the city staff, we were initially proposing that we do all notifications at the same time. I think we want to try a phased approach to see how it goes. Our recommendation is to start on the Deer Haven, Marina Cove, and Pine Ridge neighborhood. There are a lot of sidewalks in that area too, so I think that we could get some good compliance by just focusing on that neighborhood. We'd like to test the program out, and also it would allow us some time to fill those key positions that are vacant in both the Public Works and Building Department.
So the notion of having a plan covers some liability piece resonated with me. I would just ask that if Nick, I don't know if this all falls on your shoulders, but some discretionary to try and accommodate some optional work here. So, and optional in a couple different ways. If I'm in, what's the district that we're doing? First one, and your city's telling me that I need to replace one panel, but for whatever reason, there's a crack, it's not a tripping hazard, and I want to replace it, I want to do it. That seems like kind of a slam dunk, but also I'm in District 3 and I just really want to get this done. If economy scale is one of the motivators here, that should be accommodating now, or we should be able to accommodate them to a certain point. I'm guessing there's a lot of diminishing returns with getting too big here, but if we could target the communication initially, and then maybe it's just a more blanket, website notice thing or whatever. But that's just me.
But if the person in District 3 is not gonna know they need something replaced yet, because we're only gonna communicate to District 1 right now, right?
Well, I mean,
We're gonna send like direct notices to people just in the first district, but if people do want to take advantage of the citywide contract, we'd be willing to allow them to do that.
So we'd have to get notice out there that we're doing it.
not real, I mean, the sidewalks were spray painted, right? So, I mean, they'd have to do some digging to know what the spray paint means,
Oh, okay.
but there's some,
Sleuthy people out there that might.
well, and then just, like, if we've got some elderly folks that know they need a fix and just don't have, maybe, they can contract it out whenever, I guess, but this is a nice, benefit in a non-ideal scenario. I mean, that's not our targeted audience here, but it seems to be, again, we're hardly using any concrete, so it's the work. And again, if you're doing a 15th site, that the marginal cost of that seems to be pretty low as opposed to somebody having to do this on their own. Maybe that's optimistic, thinking that people will put two and two together and make the connection. But if that's accommodatable, I'd hate to not have those people have the option.
I mean, I think if somebody wants to replace their entire sidewalk, we're not gonna tell them no, because it's only gonna help everybody else, because that's just more concrete that
Right.
would go to waste essentially, so.
Right. Is that, I don't want to, that's just me. I don't know.
The only comment I have is that doing this by districts then is going to help whatever contract we've got on this, what's gonna look like a goofy project for them to be mobilized in a more singularly focused area instead of all over town.
Right.
If they're willing, absolutely, let them go pour wherever somebody wants to in town.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if they
And
just.
that's
wanna
what I
stay
mean by, I don't want to put too much of an onus on you, Nick, to say, talk with them to say, okay, District 3 is too far, but District 5 is okay, or this kind of, in that scenario, I'm guessing they'll do a full replacement anywhere, but if you're doing one panel, I'm not going to the other side of town. And then again, at some point, the project is going to get too big and it's going to work. So
I think this is going to boil down a lot to whatever contractor we get and how much they want to do at any given time.
Another element to this is we have weathered another winter season, so these numbers could be
yeah.
completely different again too.
So I guess my hypothetical question is, take zone 3 or zone 4. When, if we've already identified what needs to be repaired in those areas, when do they find out?
I think we were intending to do one district each year, but I think we need to evaluate how this goes and how much, staff time it takes for us to coordinate this effort. Several years ago, when we did the citywide SQR project, it was a super fun project. It produced good results. It put a lot of work on the city staff though. So I want to take this phased approach mainly for lessons learned from that program. But I think it would be every year. So every year we would do a district.
Okay, it makes sense. And it makes sense that it takes a lot of staff time and energy. I'm just curious if there are advantages to, if you have a list, because one of my concerns has been the 120 days. If that's a difficult turnaround for certain people to come up with the dollars to be able to pay for this, you're on the 120-day list, but you're also 2028. What does it help to know 2 years ahead of time that I'm going to have this expense that I'm going to have to pay for in 3 months?
So
Does that
we're
make
out there,
sense?
we're out there inventorying every year is the idea. And there's gonna be the spray paint marks that they're going to be able to see. So as long as we message what those are, you're gonna have a whole bunch of lead time there.
Right, I'm thinking that there's going to be a messaging gap between spray paint and understanding that I'm going to pay a few $100.
I think it's gonna help to know,
Right,
to be able to message what year you can expect is going to be your neighborhood's year. Yeah, and that is part of the messaging that we got.
That to me goes back to our blanket communication where regardless of what district you're in, here's a program, we're doing it, here's why, big part of that. We'll get to you when we get to you. If you're more interested, give us a call and we can see if we can get it sooner.
And then I guess my secondary question is, is every city starting that for the pretty much this year?
We're
Because of
seeing a
this.
lot of cities implement programs. We've essentially based our program off of the city of Johnston.
Did they have any data on what percentage didn't go out and get theirs fixed on time, that they ended up having to go to the assessment route?
It varied drastically by city.
Okay.
There obviously were struggles for all of them that it's a learning curve with how people react. They didn't really give you a specific feedback necessarily,
Okay.
but it's just kind of a moving target that you gotta try to adapt with.
Okay.
Johnston's a bunch of losers. We'll do better.
Do you have anything else, Chelsea?
I think what we will do is update this presentation and we'll explicitly put in there what the intended timeline is for the districts and we'll put it on the website with the map. So we'll certainly do as much as we can with education and communicating, but I think it'd be helpful if we maybe had something on the city's website that said sidewalk repair program, and residents that might see the spray paint or hear from their neighbor that something's going on would be able to go access the information at least. So I think we can update this and work with what we've got.
So this isn't an issue now, but as we add in new neighborhoods like Antler Ridge, I'm blanking, Allure, do we have a plan for how we add those in? Do we add those to a district, or do we add additional districts and lengthen that timeline?
Yeah, I think we will need to.
I think we would just create another section at that point, especially if out there, 'cause it's just kind of out by itself. That would just be its own section, and then it would just get our timeline with the other ones.
It'd be similar to age too, so it makes sense to probably do that, and then like, if you do like 4 subdivisions that are currently in Polk City along Northside Drive, maybe that makes sense. Because they'll all be, within 5 to 10 years of each other.
Well, and that to me sort of addresses on another related topic is we still have significant sidewalk gaps. Whereas if your house is old enough and we at the time weren't requiring sidewalks that are causing various degrees of problems, connectivity and other things. So,
Don't we have verbiage in our repair program to cover those sidewalk gaps, to start filling those
We
in?
do. It's very hard to call in a sidewalk unless you have a deferral agreement. Like if you don't have a deferral agreement on file, it's very difficult to ask the abutting property owner to install it. I've talked this through with the city attorney on some previous properties before. But we do have a number of deferral agreements that I think we need to start reviewing and calling on.
okay, do we have a list of properties that we don't have deferral agreements on?
Probably not a comprehensive list, no, because a lot of the section would be like the old or original part of town.
And those are just never gonna get sidewalks?
I think it's hard unless the city wants to initiate a project to start them.
So, that's probably a different topic, right?
Yeah.
So Dave is gonna bring this home. He had one final question.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think this has just a couple quick things. If we continue to do this, as we continue to do this, and my sidewalk, no matter what year, needs to be repaired, if I know the program's going on, I get a hold of City Hall, they're out there that year to do it. So I think as this continues to move along, hopefully we just sort of fix as we move forward. And also, the last thing is, you want, only because I know people do it themselves, you want the subgrade brought to elevation, the grade is established, and the forms are set, but no concrete put in. Before concrete, that's when it's inspected.
Yes.
Okay, that's very helpful because that'll be a question. Thank you. I brought it home.
You did. So we have another item on our agenda. Chelsea's going to talk about that too. Polk City Economic Development Policy Discussion, otherwise known as TIF.
okay. So I've provided you with some information for tonight. on the city's economic development incentive policy. The city adopted this policy back in 2019, 2020. We had never had a policy previously. We've amended it a few times, with the most recent amendment taking place in the fall of 2025. I had two council members ask for us to discuss the city's economic development incentive policy at a work session. I intended to have a discussion on the policy tonight, and I think that I've pivoted a little bit because of some legislation that was passed at the State House regarding property tax reform. So I'm going to spend time talking on that first, and then we'll talk about the policy. Sorry, let me get to where I need to go. Okay, we're just going to pull this up. Okay, so with recent property tax changes, there's going to be some significant impacts to TIF laws in the state of Iowa, which is going to begin January 1, 2027. And I have talked with some other cities, and I have reviewed that legislation. I don't believe it's been signed into law yet by the governor, but I do believe that it will be signed. I am going to suggest the city council consider a temporary moratorium on TIF rebate agreements. I do believe other cities are going to be taking the same initiative with both abatement and TIF. So the concern that I have is that with the new property tax reform bill, revenue is going to be capped at 2% from year to year on the city's general fund levy. New construction is excluded from the hard cap, but TIF and abatements coming back onto the tax rolls are not excluded. So therefore, I think incentivizing projects is going to be difficult because the city will not, if you're going to provide incentive, you'll never get your return on investment with the way that property tax legislation is currently written. So the benefit is the city can capture projects when it is considered new construction. So you've got a housing subdivision, and let's say you have 100 new homes. We can capture that new revenue created from that new subdivision when the valuation comes onto the tax rolls immediately. The problem is if the project's incentivized through either abatement where they don't pay taxes, or with TIF where they pay taxes and it's rebated back to them, and the valuation comes on at a future date, we are restricted to only capturing 2% new revenue on the entire general fund levy. So I did want to talk about this tonight. I'm not suggesting that the council do away with the policy, but I do think we put a temporary pause on rebate agreements until we have some clarification on how that property tax legislation is going to impact TIF, but that's my understanding. And I can tell you, I have heard from a number of other cities that are taking similar initiatives on the matter. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, but they're ones that time will answer, so I
Okay.
think this is the smart way to go. Just not knowing how this is going to affect our revenues just doesn't make sense to jump in with.
So the way this is going, could we TIF up to January 1st, 2027?
No, because it's valuation coming on January 1, 2027.
Okay.
So anything that's built essentially this year will be impacted by the new legislation.
And B, it doesn't affect the TIF that we just put in place.
It does.
It does affect the TIF for the Parker and Bridge Road property.
Yes.
What we've already approved, or the new one that they were going to bring to the floor?
What you've already approved.
Can we review that? Because what I read, isn't there like a 23-year phase-out period, or am I was sort of confused, but reasonably assured that the existing, I thought the time horizons that we had versus what I read were different, and ours would not be impacted, but it's kind of hard to suss through.
The time things didn't necessarily apply to what Polk City had done recently. I think what she's describing is the difference on where it gets counted in terms of existing assessed value and new growth.
Okay.
Yeah, so if the new valuation comes on January 1, 2027, I do think that this law will impact that. I don't know how the city will capture that new growth in the city's general fund levy. I think you're referring to the perpetual TIF legislation, the section that was specific to perpetual TIF, and then putting a cap of being able to collect on urban renewal areas that have no sunset, and then putting that 23-year period in.
Okay, that probably is. I just, yeah, I think we need to, well, see if it gets signed, because it has not yet, correct?
Last I knew, it had not been signed by the
Okay.
governor.
So, and I would expect that League of Cities or somebody would do a deep dive into the implications, and then all the moratorium or whatever we're calling it, pause, makes sense. But I don't want to, I don't know, we spend a lot of calories on this over the last however many, 4 years, where they've been threatening all kinds of property tax reform, and the manifestation of any of those year by year hasn't been a ton. So I think we need to talk about this anyways, but I also don't want to get too carried away with, most of what they do sounds more strict than it ends up being, in my opinion.
Let's hope. I
So.
think you're gonna hear from developers too.
Yeah,
in a big way.
absolutely. I kind of wanted to just get a little bit of feedback. I think the council would need to take a formal action at a future meeting if you're going to just put a pause on
Would or
any
would not?
incentives. You would need to.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have an existing policy out there which tells me, I follow the policy that was put in place by the council. Until you tell me to do something otherwise formally, I will continue to go by the policy. So,
So this really puts a damper on sending out an RFP right now.
not necessarily. I will tell you that development can happen without tax incentives. We have seen it happen in Polk City without tax incentives. We received one proposal last time that did not request any tax incentives. So last time the city put the RFP out, we received two. One requested them, one did not. I think if you were to put a temporary pause on it, I could communicate that with developers that might be interested in developing that site. So.
I'm weary of using the words temporary and pause when it comes to this, simply because it's going to take state action to make a change, reversing it. And yes, there could be within a year, but there's no indication that Governor Reynolds isn't going to sign this. And those two words mean that we are in fact going to make a change somewhat soon, which I think incentivizes people to wait and see instead of develop. I think your original word, putting a moratorium on it and explaining that if state takes some action to change this legislation, then we will revisit our policy. But by just saying pause or temporary, I think that kind of disincentivizes developers from exploring what options they have in town and waiting to see and asking again in 6 months.
So you want something more definitive language-wise that's tied to a change in
State
state
law.
law, which is
Or
reasonable.
just use the word moratorium
Yeah.
without pause or temporary.
Okay.
That's a good point, because there might be some of this, and I'm not saying this is wise, but it could just change how you do it. An urban renewal program or some of those other
Right.
things that it didn't really, you can do it, it's just ABC instead of 1, 2, 3. Which
Yeah, I
again, I'm
just-
not
I
saying
just
we
don't-
should, but
Right, I just don't want the messaging to suggest
Yep.
that you wait till the fall, you wait till the winter, you wait till next spring. Now we
Come
might
back.
be able to deal.
yeah,
Right now we can't, because I don't know that that's true.
that's a good point. Catch.
Comfortable with that?
So what I would plan is putting something on a future agenda for the council to consider on this topic. And I will use the terminology suggested, moratorium on the city's economic development incentive policy.
Predicated on it being signed and maybe some more information coming from a League of Cities type organization.
Okay, I can phrase a resolution accordingly, so, thank you. Okay. I don't think we need to get into the specifics with the existing policy. Again, I think that when we have more information, we do need to rediscuss the city's policy. I've just had a couple of things brought up by some of the elected officials, and I think that we have open conversation and dialogue on that, so, thank you, I appreciate it. That's all I need.
Okay, anything else of Chelsea before we wrap it up? Is that a hand up?
Yeah, I would,
This is good info too.
between Chelsea and James, and whoever else can fill in the gaps, I know this is the bad part about what's happening, and we're half empty because we're having to deal with, our glass is half empty. How about how is this helping residents, schools? By doing this to the city, what is the benefit to the taxpayers? Why would they do, and there has to be a reason why they're doing it, and I read through it and still confused, and I'll probably never understand it.
Ask your local legislator.
I think that they could give you a better
Well,
answer than I could.
That's the problem, is
Yeah.
we're dealing with things we don't know what both sides are, but, okay.
Okay, I think we are done with our 2 items. So the 3rd item on our agenda is adjournment. Ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We are adjourned until 6 o'clock.